Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're coming to you with a fresh new episode of the Mile High Game Guys podcast, recorded on June 14th, aiming for a June 17th? Yeah,
Yes.
17th release.
There's aiming and then there's hitting.
Yes. And as always, these Wednesday episodes / now currently our only episodes are sponsored by our sponsors, Grey Fox Games. So huge thanks to them for continuing to support us through all of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which.
Speaking of which, so we put out 2 weeks ago, we put out a statement on Twitter and in our Slack channel. And I don't think I did it on our Facebook, and I don't know if you did it on our Instagram, Jeff. But 2 weekends ago, we did not feel comfortable recording, and we put out a statement to that effect. Essentially, at the time, that was right when a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests and the protests of the incredibly unjust killing of George Floyd were really taking off around the country. And the three of us have friends personally from our weekly game night, from our local friend group, who were down at these protests being tear gassed, shot with, less than lethal rounds from the Denver PD. And we did not feel even remotely comfortable sitting down to idly bullshit about board games as we tend to do.
Didn't even have the heart to rip into Adrian.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was one of those, I was dwelling on it all day because I work Sundays. And so it was just 12 hours of me, a fairly slow day at work, reading articles, watching videos of everything that was going on, wishing I could be there with my friends who were actually down there, letting their voices be heard. And it just was this impending sense of doom of man, I don't feel like fucking recording. And finally I messaged Zach and Jeff and I was like, guys, am I crazy here? I don't feel like doing this. Yeah. And both of you guys were like,
no, we 100% feel the exact same way.
Yeah,
that would have been crazy if we're no, Adrian, the show must go on. That would have been
Adrian, people need to hear our generic white opinions on board games.
Blood bowl must flow
for distraction. So we put out the statement and everything about that 2 weeks ago when we skipped an episode.
I'm sure we can copy that over somewhere for mass dissemination.
Yes. Yeah, I'll add it to the Facebook, and like I said, it's on our Twitter. It's one of the most recent tweets that we have on our Twitter account. But the following Sunday, kind of the same thing. We were getting close to time to record, and this time it was Jeff who was like, "Guys, I'm still no," and we were like, "Yeah, right there with you, man."
Yeah.
It's been an interesting time. There's a lot of things that are inspiring. There's been protests in all 50 states and all across the world on behalf of this. It really feels like people are actually, for once, really starting to have that kind of overwhelming sense of a need to change. It's not just a handful of people. More and more people are getting on board with it. But it's still really hard to see some of, everything that's happening. And so it's not even stopping. There's still people who are being killed this weekend in bullshit encounters with the police. And I keep seeing things come out court transcripts from the Ahmaud Arbery case in Georgia, and it's just sickening. And it's we try to be lighthearted on the show. We don't tend to take things seriously. And this is a time to take things seriously. Yeah. And that's hard for us.
Yeah, we didn't want to ring his false. Or anything
right.
With all that, so
when there's so many other much more, much better voices out there that were talking at the same time.
Yeah. And this is of course already piled on top of all of the COVID shit that had already fucked with our gaming group and all of our lives. We've been recording remotely for 3 months now.
March.
Yeah. And so it's just all of that piled on there, and so we needed a couple weeks to take some time. We didn't feel like it was, there wasn't nobody needed to hear from us.
Yeah. No, we've got 200 episodes that you can listen to us.
Yes,
we've got a shit ton of backlog.
Yeah. And to be honest, they all sound sort of the same, so you'll be good.
Exactly. That's why we don't do dates usually.
Yep.
Like we just we just let that slide. But in a related note to all of that, because we do still have our awesome sponsors over on Patreon, we have we have a new patron that will throw insults at. New $1 patron will throw insults at.
Yep.
At the end of the show. We'll say that we still have our awesome patrons, and you guys have stuck by us as we've decreased a lot of our show load. We're not even anymore the most podcast.
Yeah.
We're just podcast.
Ugh.
And you've stuck by us, and we really appreciate that. But since we are cognizant of the fact that we have been doing less content, and because we also want this show to, in some ways, be a positive force for good in the community, the three of us talked, and we have decided that we are going to donate last month's Patreon proceeds and this month's Patreon proceeds to two local groups here in Denver, local charities that we want to support. And we're also matching out of pocket each of those donations. So the first donation that we're going to do, which will be for last month, it's $200 from Patreon and $200 that we're going to match for ourselves to do a donation to the Center for African American Health here in, they're based here in Colorado. And they're an organization that's basically what the name says. They're the Center for African American Health. They're dedicated to improving the health and well-being of African Americans in Metro Denver. Offer community-based, evidence-based disease prevention and disease management programs, events, and services. And we chose them because we wanted to support a group that is specifically helping the Black community. We want to choose a local group, which that also hits, and then also being cognizant of the fact that during this entire COVID crisis, it is vastly disproportionately affecting Black and African Americans in this country. And so we felt
of color as a whole, really.
As a whole, yes. And so we wanted this charity hits all three of those things. They're local, they're helping with the COVID crisis, and they're specifically trying to empower African Americans and other people of color. So they're going to be our first donation for last month's Patreon. Then the second donation we're going to make is for this month, June's Patreon. And since June is Pride Month, we have chosen to donate to the Center on Colfax. The Center on Colfax is a community center that opened in 1976 and has grown to become the largest LGBTQ community center in the Rocky Mountain region. Their goal is to give a voice and a home to Colorado's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community, and to play a role in statewide initiatives to reduce harassment and discrimination. And those are things that we also very much support and are happy to be a part of. And so it's another one. It's local. It's Pride Month, so it's specifically helping the LGBTQ community. And, it's just one more little thing that we can do to try and be a force for good in the world.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So. Yeah.
There you have it.
We will link those things for everyone to look up to make sure these are legitimate and not just Adrian's, prop up
shell corpse. Yeah, I find more subtle ways to scam money out of the podcast than to fake donations to good causes.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so there you have it. I think that's about all that we have or need to say about these things.
We will talk about some more during the show of news, etc.
Yeah.
Yes. that are at least tangentially related.
Yes.
So, but other than that, we're going to try and get on and have a somewhat normal Mile High Game Guys show of inane bullshit and banter about board games.
Yes.
Yep.
So
we just couldn't just start without that. So.
Absolutely.
Right. Right.
So it's like, yeah, what's going on with everyone else? Anyone else been super depressed the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. So let's start with some board games now in this board game show. I don't know about you guys, but I actually had a chance to play some real, actual physical board games.
I did too.
Nice.
Like I hadn't played a physical board game in quite some time, but I also played some physical board games because the Colorado restrictions are loosening and you're able to gather a little bit more. And
a lot of places are doing 50% capacity, and some breweries are doing like smaller.
Yeah,
smaller amounts, shorter hours, but they're still open.
Yeah, breweries opened up. I had my first draft beer since whatever D-Bolt, the first Wednesday in March, which was the second to last game night because I got sick the week after, and I was like, I'm sick. I'm not going to go out. Which is probably
did you know.
Little did I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I still haven't had draft beer since.
I work at a brewery and haven't had a draft beer from there yet.
That's ridiculous.
I've had draft beer twice, so suck it. I don't know.
Suck it, nerd.
Yeah, but that's not true. I have had draft beer, but that's all banter stuff. We'll come back to that. Let's talk about board games.
Okay.
Because we have all played some real physical board games. Zach, would you like to start?
Sure. So twice now, once the brewery started opening up, they had a lot of open spaces, but you could come and just sit at your table. So it's not good for game night yet because you especially can't interact with other tables, move around and stuff like that, but you can still sort of sit at your own table and they'll bring you beer and stuff like that, or you have to go up there with a mask. But some of us have gone, like I said, twice now to breweries. The first time we went to Strange, and for that one I played I feel like we talked about this game before, JamSumo, right? In terms of on Kickstarter. But we didn't talk about me actually playing it, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right. So this is a wooden game. It has it's a big wooden disc. It has a hole in the center, and it has these little platforms on the sides, and you're flicking dice on them. It's basically 3 different games. The first one is Jam, and Jam is you have you take a die and you're flicking it and you're trying to get it in the hole, and you can play 1 to 5 or 2 to 5 players, I guess. But the goal of the game is to have the least amount of points at the end or after the end of however many rounds. And how you get points is by not getting a die into the hole by the time that somebody has gotten all of their dice in the hole. So that's what ends a round, and then whatever dice you still have showing, it's whatever their face value is. So you have 5 pips up, you get 5 points. That one was okay. It felt like once you got the hang of it, it was very easy to just sort of replicate getting your die in the hole, so it didn't feel like anything as skillful as Crokinole or even Clask or anything like that. But the next one was called Sumo, and what Sumo is you, instead of you're flicking your dice on to get off the board, more or less, you're trying to flick other people's dice off. So you have a line of 5 your 5 dice, and then you're flicking one of them, and you're trying to knock your opponents off the side or into the hole. And then once there's only one person left, they get points equal to how many pips they have up left. That one was a lot more enjoyable and felt like there was more skill involved, and that's partially because you have to know when to go focus on people, and you could try and be defensive by aiming it into other people's starting spots, which would be hard to knock their dice off and stuff like that. That one was definitely the more enjoyable of the two. You can also play the name JamSumo, which is just you do a round of jam and then a round of sumo, and then whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. And that one was just I'd rather just play sumo at that point, I think. But it was a fun little bullshit dexterity game, but definitely wouldn't supplant any of those other wooden bullshit dexterity games to me.
Oh, okay.
Next one I played was The Crew, which won best co-op game for BGG.
Did it get a Spiel award as well, or
maybe
a nomination for sure?
Yeah. That's the problem with this year, right? Is that you're something that happened 3 weeks ago. You're that was last year, right?
No, that was 48 hours ago, guy.
But this is a co-op. It's a co-op trick-taking game.
Which we tried to play on Tabletop Simulator, but the scripting kept breaking.
Right. So luckily I wasn't there for that, so I had no idea what it was like, how it actually played until I actually played it. And you have basically 50 missions that you're going through. And they get progressively harder, but how the game works is you deal out the deck to everybody. And there are 4 suits of cards that go from like 1 to 8 or 1 to 9. And then there's a 5th suit that's rockets, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's basically a trump card. But those still, a 3 will beat a 2. And the goal of the game is each of these missions, you're going to get these objective cards that you're going to draw, and it'll say like, 7 green or blue 1, and whoever takes those, that person has to be the person that wins the trick that contains those cards. And you're not supposed to talk strategy, right? So that's like you're seeing what all these cards you have to do, and you have to figure out like, oh, if someone took this 7 of, the 7 green, and I have the 7 green card, then I know that whenever they lead off in a way that I can throw it off to them, I need to give it to them. But like the trick comes is like the first couple missions are just intro missions, and they're very easy, and it's like, oh, 1 card, 2 cards. 2 cards, but this one has to go first. Like, you have to get this trick before this trick.
And there's like 40 or 50 missions?
50.
Yeah.
There are 50 missions, and they get progressively harder. There will be like, because you can play with up to 4 people, I think. Maybe, can you play 5? I don't know. Well, we were playing with 4 people, and we were looking at some of these. We were looking at some of these things, and it was crazy. Because some of them were like 5 people. Yeah. Okay.
Best of 4.
Best at 4, yeah. But like some of these missions, you'll get like 7 objectives, and like this, this first one is the first one that has to be taken, and then the next like 3 have to be taken sequentially from each other, and then this other one is the last one you have to get. So say there are like 7 tricks that are 7 missions, and there's only like 10 or 11 rounds, because of how many cards you have, so it gets really complicated with trying to figure out how to get these people to take certain tricks and things like that. You can, once a round, you have a little like communication token that you can put a card in your hand, you put it face up so everybody can see it, and you use this token to indicate if it's your only of that, if it's the only card of that suit, if it's the highest card, or if it's the lowest card, to give some people some information. And then you can also, once around, pass a card to each person. So, like, everybody passes 1 card either to the left or to the right. And so there are ways to get information there, but there's also sometimes you'll play a mission where you have to choose somebody to not give any communication, or you have to choose somebody to not take any tricks, or you have to take a trick with, like, the 1 of a color. So that's the lowest card, and it's... There adds just a lot of like cool little tricks in there that it's just like, how did that like? It was a lot of fun. Paul, who as you know is a big trick taking fan, was like sort of hesitant like when we were telling the game to him, and then like 4 or 5 rounds in, he's like, okay, I'm getting this game. This is amazing.
Yeah, when I went and picked up the Black Widow set at the Wizard's Chest, Mike Jones was working. And he said that there was a set already set aside for Paul.
Nice. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it's that's a cool, just a cool little way to do a trick taking game that, I wouldn't have thought of doing. So
and it is the Spiel des Jahres 2020, it is a nominee, but they have not announced the Connoisseur award yet, with Cartographers and The King's Dilemma, which I think all 3 are fantastic games.
Yeah, yes, now that I've played it, any one of those is like, yeah, no, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
So, definitely a good year for that.
Yes.
For a gamer's game, like the real complex games, like The Crew and Cartographers.
Yes.
And then the last one I played was basically Anxiety, the game, but it's called Stay Cool. It's a trivia game, and you can play with, I think it's up to 5 players, but we were playing with 4. And what it is it goes over 3 rounds, and what's happening is there's a sand timer that has 30-second sides of it, so you're basically answering questions for 2 minutes. How you're answering the questions, though, is you have 2 people a person to your left and a person to your right. The person to your right has a card that has like 5 questions on it, and you have dice in front of you. You're not rolling these dice, but they have different number or letters on there, and there are like 2 white ones that are vowels, and the other ones are consonants. And they'll ask you a question, and you have to spell it out with these dice. So it'll be like a round toy that kids like to play with is a hula blank, and you would write like hoop. But
Okay.
the other person is asking you other questions that you have to answer verbally, and basically, if you aren't actively thinking about it or trying to answer it, they have to keep asking the question over you over and over again.
What the fuck?
And it could be like somewhat simple math problems, or like it could be like tell me, or what are the different ways to like spell the different ways to you can use wait for and describe what they mean, or give me 3 jobs that don't end in or er, and you have to like
Is it like, do they have like cards or a list
Yes,
of questions?
they have cards.
Okay.
Yeah, each of them have cards, and they have numbers next to them. So it basically, at the end of the round, which is when the 2 minutes is over, you multiply whatever their numbers are together, and that's what you sort of get for your score for the round. So if you don't answer any of one, then you're basically getting 0 points, no matter how well you did on the other one. But if you answer like 2 from one and 5 from the other, then you're getting like 10 points.
Okay.
So that's the first round. Is there's somebody else is basically flipping the timer for you, so you can sort of see. The second round is everything is the same, except you have to tell the timer person when to flip the sand timer. And if they don't flip it over, then as soon as the sand runs out, your time's done with. So if you aren't also paying attention to the sand, then you
Jesus.
will, yeah. And then the third round is the sand timer is going, but it's going behind a box, so you can't see the sand. So you just have to sort of into it when you think it should be flipped.
Oh my god. I see why you described this as anxiety the game.
Yes. Yeah.
It's giving me anxiety thinking about
Exactly, yeah.
it. Holy shit.
And like you'll easily get trapped in things where like it's one of the things where like if somebody answers it incorrectly, you're just supposed to say it again, not say how they were wrong or anything like that. And so there were times when like Paul would answer the question that was supposed to be written out in dice, but they were saying it verbally instead. It's just like, nope, gotta ask it again. And he's just like, what the fuck? And then you realize that it was because they were the dice person, and it was like, oh god damn it. Or Wes forgot to turn the sand time over the first time we played. In that second round. And it's because you just weren't thinking about it, or you get stuck with something, and it's just like one of the times I was asking some other questions, and then I would go back to Wes's question, and I'm like, all right, and it was the die one, and I was like, I started spelling something, I'm like, wait, I don't even know what I'm trying to spell. Ask me the question again.
Oh my god.
So it's it was fun, but it was definitely stressful. And I wouldn't play it a lot, but I definitely enjoyed my time playing it. But I know Wes was very much at the end of it. He was like, "Oh, thank God that's over."
Yeah, that sounds vaguely awful.
But yeah,
that was try it.
That was Stay Cool, and it was I think it was by Yellow, and I think it's 3 to 5 players.
6.
Okay.
6, really? Yeah. Okay.
I was looking it up, so I knew what you were actually talking about.
Gotcha. Yep.
A lot of the pictures are from what's Eric playing from Punchboard Media fame.
Yep.
Yes.
He's playing Stay Cool.
Yes, or at least took pictures of it.
At a minimum.
It's got a complexity rating of 1.0.
Oh yeah, no, it's a very simple game, but that doesn't mean it's not stressful.
3 to 7 players. But the community, there's actually not many community ratings for it right now. But
I think it just came out.
It's got 2019 on it, but
okay, well,
but, 2020's been a fucking shit show anyways.
Exactly, yeah. No, when we were playing the crew, Mike Jones basically kept being like, all right, well, when we're done with this, you guys want to play? Like, he kept trying to push this game over and over again, and eventually we're like, all right, fine, we'll try it.
Classic Mike Jones.
Yep.
With his no more hair. He used to have the hair crown. Now it's gone.
Yep.
Indeed. Right on. Yeah, I assume that was pretty much it, right, Zach?
Yes, just JamSumo, the crew, and stay cool.
Right on. I'll go next, and then Jeff. That way, I guess we'll still do Bloody Minute after banter.
Yay.
But I also have played 3 real life board games that I haven't talked about because I forgot. I remembered one that I actually should have talked about like 3 weeks ago that I didn't, but I'm going to talk about very briefly now. So the first game is the one from a long time ago that I forgot to talk about, I think, on the show. I did 2 solo games of Pax Ren 2nd Edition against the Automa for that game, and I don't remember. They have a different name for it.
So what is PAX Renaissance versus the one you have? Pax Pamir?
Sorry, Pax Pamir
okay.
2nd is the one. Yeah. So thank you for catching that early before I talked for a long time.
Should have just let you do that, and at the end I was like, did you mean Pax Pamir?
It's 100% what you should have done.
No.
But yeah, so I wanted, because I played the one time way back at game night, and I didn't super love it, but Lance was super generous and had given me an extra copy because he'd done like a big bulk order, and then he never found a buyer for the last copy or something. And so he just gave it to me, which is super generous, and I really appreciate that. So I was like, I really want to give it another shot, and I know like Boyd is always gushing about it. I think Nick talks about it a solid amount on the Slack channel. I was like, I need to give this another try. Let me try to remember how it works, how to play it, and then maybe I could try it online. So I played 2 games against the Automa, and holy shit, I got housed. Like, not even fucking close both times. Because the way the game plays, it's one of those games where like you shuffle 5 cards into the deck. Like, you kind of like Pandemic style, where you divide the deck into several different piles. You shuffle each pile individually and then stack them, so that there's like kind of a timer going off where every so often in the deck you'll pull out a card, and then that will trigger a scoring round when that card is taken. And the Automa like super targets those cards. If it would score more points, it always targets those cards no matter what. And at the end of one of those scoring phases with one of those cards, if one of the players is ever more than 4 points ahead, they just instant win. And in both games, the Automa like instant won on like the second or third one of those cards.
Wow.
It was just like, what the fuck, man? So it wasn't even close. I got beat real bad. But I did enjoy playing and kind of using the Automa and like getting a feel for the systems of the game. And I would like to give it another shot. I don't think it's going to be one I ever super love, because it does have a little bit too much of the like, heavy game crossed with like negotiation and like having to play the other player and stuff like that. It feels a little take that-y at times. It's not really a take that game, but it feels that way. You really feel like somebody's like fucking your shit up. But yeah. So that was Pax Pamir 2nd Edition. I just did that solo a couple games, and that was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I just had forgotten to talk about how badly I got my ass kicked.
How long was each game?
Like 30 to 40 minutes, but I was also like, I set it up downstairs on my coffee table, so I was also like watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine while I played, so I'd regularly like take a break in between hands and like watch a little bit of TV or something. So that's not really indicative of any amount of game time, but yeah. The other game I played physically and in person, so about 2.5 to 3 weeks ago, right like the Tuesday after our last recording. So like 3 weeks ago. My mom briefly came through town. She had went out to see her adopted sister graduate from high school. Like they did like a weird modified, COVID social distance graduation out at their small high school. So she came out to see that. And then on her way out, she swung by here to say hi to Megan and I. And we had a little bit of time, and so we sat down at my big old kitchen table, and we played a 3-player game of Legendary Encounter Alien. We played the second movie, the Aliens scenario, and we did really, really good. Like good enough where I was at times like a little skeptical that we were playing wrong. It felt like everything was going too easily.
When did we, Zach, did you play that Legendary Predator game with Ant and Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, like that one felt like it was going too good. too.
Yes, it did.
But we kept getting really lucky. So my mom had bought a card. It was like a 5-cost card that if you used it for yourself was 2 money, but if you coordinated it to another player, it was 3 strike. And she had that card in her hand. She was sitting to my left, so I would go after her. So she'd finish her turn. She drew that card, and then that would be the turn where I would scan a room and discover a face hugger. And so then she would just coordinate that card to kill the face hugger. She had another card that was like, it was coordinate like 2 damage and then scan whatever the far right room is for the player that you coordinated to. So I was getting to like, she would coordinate me the damage, I would scan, I would get a face hugger. She couldn't coordinate me again, but then Megan was to my right, so Megan would go, my mom would coordinate the damage to Megan, and Megan would kill it. And so like that happened like 2 or 3 times in the game where it just was the perfect thing of me scanning, getting a face hugger, my mom coordinating damage to Megan to kill the face hugger. It was great. Everything was going really smooth. And like towards the end of that scenario, they start having like, your cards can start getting captured. Like some of the aliens that are in the deck, will capture them and puts them in the complex, or not the complex, but like the little space next to the combat zone. That's like where things you're trying to buy go, or like objectives you're trying to accomplish. But it would pile them up there. And Megan was like, is there any reason to like try and get those back? Because the rules are like, yeah, you can buy them back for their cost, basically. And I was like, I don't think so. And so we were just ignoring them. Well, then the queen comes out, and the queen you cannot kill until you've gotten all of the captured people back out of there. So then we're like trying to do everything we can to prevent the queen from moving through the complex and dropping into the combat zone where she double strikes and she's got like fucking 15 health. And it took a while, but we were able to finally do it. We got the last person out of there, and then she moved onto the very far left space in the complex right before she drops in the combat zone, and that was where we had set up one of the sentry guns. So then on the next turn, Megan drew a perfect hand of damage, and with the 2 damage from the sentry gun, was able to kill the queen. So we actually won. So everything felt too easy until the queen came out, and then it was like, oh god, we are fucked. And then we were able to like barely hold her off and win. So,
well, that's very good, because that first hazard has spelt doom in a lot of games.
Oh my god.
Of aliens encounter.
Yeah.
Especially in a 5-player game. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So we won that. That was awesome. And then for my third game, just a few days ago, I messaged in our Hangouts chat. I was at Black and Red, and I asked Zach, like, hey, what are your thoughts on like these 3 Mansions of Madness scenarios? Because you've told me 1,000 times, but I never retain which ones are the ones to actually focus on. And I don't remember really what your response was, because
the trend continues. Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, with a slight difference this time. The reason I don't remember is because I waited for a little bit. Like, I messaged you while I was at Black and Red, and I looked at some other things, and I was like, I'm tired of Zach waiting, and I'm relatively flush with cash right now. So I just bought all 3 of them.
Nice.
And so I bought all 3 of them, and brought them home and sorted through them, and Megan and I played Mansions of Madness 2-player. We played it 2-handed, so we each had 2 survivors, and we played the train scenario.
Question: what would you guys have done if somebody got a trader card for Insanity?
So for Insanities, basically it was kind of an honor system where if you got an Insanity that made you a bad guy, you had to hand over your character. Like, so the other person would have controlled the other 3, and it would have been like kind of 1v1. It's kind of that was one of those things where we were like, this won't super work, like, especially if you get one of the ones like, you only win if you do this and this other thing, but you're not like actually working against the crew.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like, do we want to really worry about that, or do we just want to be like, okay, my other guy very freely gives you evidence, so you have the most evidence, so you can also win. Like, and so we didn't super worry about that aspect of it.
Usually I found with those kind of insanities, if you're like, hey, if I give you this, will you give me, like, you can very heavily hint to somebody that you just need to hold on to certain things, and it's usually fine.
Exactly.
But no, anything about making the game have a different win condition. Now, the real question comes is, what if Megan became insane, and then you became insane, and you had one where you also wanted to destroy something, and you had 2 characters that did not? Would you hand that character back over to Megan?
Probably that's probably what we would have done.
Okay.
Is like, Megan, you get to control the 2 characters who want the evil forces to win or whatever. We were basically hoping that didn't come up, and thankfully, despite 3 out of the 4 going insane, that didn't come up. The only ones we got were I got the one where like I had to start saying every sentence with no.
Mm-hmm.
No, yes.
And
no, yeah. Oh, I had that one. That's how long did it take for Megan to realize that? Because when I played that with Allison, it took her a good like 5 to 10 minutes of actual talking for her to be like, oh, okay, he has to be doing this. Because I always tried to make it sound organic to whatever the answer was or anything like that. Yeah.
She noticed at the end when we revealed what our insanity conditions were.
Oh, gotcha.
So, but we lost. We did not win. We got basically all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
We had decoupled all the train cars. We had all the fuel. And we did not do it fast enough.
Womp womp.
Yeah. We basically had the decision of, do you try to like without like getting too spoilery, like, do you do a little bit of like trying to prevent eldritch horror things, or do you try to get away? And either way we were going to lose. Because it was like, you have to do both,
right?
And so it was like, well, we didn't realize that, but
at
the time. But then it was like,
like most Cthulhu things, what you do in the end didn't matter because it was all fucked to begin with.
Yeah, which it has felt that way in like the last several of them that we've played.
What do you think of the train one?
It was awesome.
Right?
Like I said at one point, I was like, I see why Zach and Jeff really liked this one. This is really cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I think so. Yeah. The airship one is very cool as well.
Okay, I'll have to keep that on deck for one of the next ones.
I want to say there's a cruise ship one as well that is also good. All 3 of those were bangers. So
I want to say we tried out like we skipped through like a second scenario to see how the airship one would change, and it was pretty different. So even scenario by scenario on those, depending which one you get, it changes around.
Yeah.
The airship
curious
one
how
was
different.
Like a murder mystery. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you have to actually like keep track of clues and stuff like that.
I'm curious how different the train, because since we lost, we're definitely going to try it again. But I'm curious how different the train one will play.
Did you run into dimensional shamblers?
Oh God, yes, constantly.
That's what I distinctly remember from that one.
Yep.
Yeah, they're real fuckers.
Yeah.
We got lucky. Megan's character, she picked. I don't remember the character's name, but he starts with like a golden trumpet that, like, when he blows it, everybody within range discards 1 face down insanity.
Oh my God,
that must be nice.
Which,
yep.
It kept us from going full like losing levels of insane. Because like regularly during the Mythos phase, it'd be like, take 1 face down insanity for every rift on the board. And it's like, great, that's 4 face down insanity for each one of us. And so she'd be like, all right, I spent 2 turns blowing my trumpet.
I was just thinking about it too, Adrian, just for like feature things for you guys. Is it something you could do is just not include not include those 3+ ones that could have traders, but then like maybe you take an extra insanity or something, like when you turn over, like you gain one or something like that to make it.
Yeah, that'd
so
probably work.
Yeah, so because I feel like you lose a lot by not having that question mark on whether or not someone is a traitor, and just handing it over is just like, I don't know. So
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all three of those were really fun.
Yeah. We also at least when I play with Megan, the two of us are competitive enough with each other that I feel like we probably I feel like I could comfortably, if one of my people went betrayer insane, I could play the one of them as a betrayer, and I could separately play the other one as actually trying to help.
Right.
And still kind of make it work. I don't know. Yeah, but I dug it. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Glad I have some more Mansions of Madness stuff to play with now.
Do you have everything now?
No, not even close. I've got first edition. I've got first edition base game, second edition base game, and then these 3 expansions that I just bought.
Gotcha.
Which
but
were
you don't have the expansions for the first edition, and then you don't have.
And the only reason he has the first edition is because I went and got it for him.
Yeah.
When I got my Chaos in the Old World for way too cheap for when that went out of print.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got so the 3 I bought were Horrific Journeys, which is the small, or that was the big box one.
Correct.
I think
there are 2 big box ones.
Yeah. And that's the one that has the trains and stuff, the train and the airship and the carnival. I got Streets of Arkham, and I got Sanctum of Twilight.
Oh, so you didn't get the jungle one?
No,
okay.
I still have not gotten the jungle one because that's been the one that I've heard is the least good.
Yes.
So, yeah. Yeah. So those are the 3 games that I played. Jeff, what about you? What have you played?
Plenty of Blood Bowl. We'll get to that. But when I was out playing Beer Fairy on Friday, I stopped by Paul's and dropped off the new gold foil that Avery made, and they were busy playing some dexterity games, and so I got in on those. The first of which was some Men at Work, which I hadn't played for a while, which is a fantastic game. Nothing too spectacular about it. I think we played 2 or 3 games. We played 1 basic game, and then we did one with the crane, of course. A lot of spectacular destruction happening in them. And then I took a picture, which I shared with you guys, of just the amount of men that were on the building. It was we almost ran out of men at work to place on the building because there were so many out on the building. And they were all holding bricks and beams and stuff like that. I think fairly quickly after I'd taken that picture, it did finally destroy itself.
It was a pretty impressive photo.
Yeah. They had all been drinking quite significantly before I arrived. So it was a...
Shocking.
It was a glorious game. Especially because I didn't show up till 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Men at Work's still great. Fantastic. I like Men at Work a lot. Then we played a new one to me called Riff Raff, which is not a good name for the game. So it's a pirate ship themed balancing dexterity game.
Yep.
The box will have a little base, and then the mast goes through the ship, and it has a big weight on the bottom. And then the ship has 4 numbers on it, and then it has 3 masts. So it goes 4 on the ship, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as they go higher. And your goal is to balance all of these various shipping, piratey type shaped things on the ship. You have a hand of 1 through 10, and whenever you play that card, that's which number that you will have to try and balance one of your pieces on. So the 10 is at the very top, 1 through 4 at the very bottom, etc. But there are little mouse shapes. There's a little barrel of monkeys hanging crew guy, a treasure chest, a cargo crate, etc., etc., a plank. So you play one of these 10 cards. The highest goes first, with the last person who placed first breaking ties, because whoever placed the highest in the previous round is the captain now. And I am not good at this game in any way, shape, or form. One of the cool things in the game is when things will inevitably go bad, you can, and stuff starts falling off the ship. Anything you catch, you don't have to keep, like suspend. So, like, everything that falls becomes yours in suspend. Where this, everything that falls becomes yours unless you catch it, and then it just gets discarded.
Yep.
And then
so you'll sometimes see people, like, when you're doing it, like the hand will be like
the hand's waiting
relatively close. Yeah, it's just
you'll inevitably not be able to catch as much as you wish you would. And I finished hard dead last in both games.
Did you have more than 10 pieces?
Yes, probably. Probably did. I think Paul crushed it top to bottom the whole night. Like, he won like four or five of like the 7 or 8 games that we played.
Damn.
Probably more like 6 or 7. Like 75% of the games he won. So
he is one of the better people I know at dexterity games.
Yeah.
God, don't let him hear you say that.
He's not the best, but he's one of the better, is all I said.
Yeah. He just uses his knowledge of dexterity games to bullshit his way through them and win.
I think he's just card counting. I think that's what helps him win.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I did some more solo Gloomhaven and played around with a couple other games like Scythe on Tabletop Simulator and stuff like that, because we ended up getting some review copies of the expansions for Scythe, because it was one of the few things that we hadn't covered of Stonemaier games. So I have the Rise of Fenris and then the Airship expansion sitting here waiting to be played.
Nice.
And then, yeah.
Right on. Well, I think until we come back to a bloody minute, that wraps up what we've been playing.
Yeah.
So it's banter time?
Nice. Banter time.
All right. Well, I want to start off by saying, Jeff, I have been drinking, what is it called again?
Quinntiki.
Quinntiki from Avery, and it is delicious.
Yeah. So that's been the... it's the first gold foil, which, if you're not familiar with Avery, they're like Tweak, and basically all their like fancy barrel stuff is Rumpkin.
Oh, Rumpkin. Oh.
Is in gold foil, 12-ounce bottles, and this has been the first gold foil run in 10 months. August of last year was the last gold foil run.
I would like a Quinntiki.
I have plenty, but when I was handing out beers, you were asleep, so. You didn't get it.
That's fair.
Yeah. The beer fairy
because it
requires. Yeah,
it's like the tooth fairy. You have to be asleep.
Yeah.
It's like the inverse of the tooth fairy. You have to be awake for the beer fairy.
But it's still after 11 o'clock.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. I ended up getting like way more than I was expecting, because I was hanging out with Ross. He's one of the guys that's been at Avery for like a million years. He was hanging out in the beer garden on Friday, and there ended up being like 10 boxes of low fills. And he was like, he grabbed a box of low fills, and he's like, oh, if you want a box of low fills, just go get a box of low fills. And so I went and got a box of low fills, and then we were out in the garden drinking for a little bit, and he was like, I don't really feel like carrying this home. Do you want this? And so I got 2 boxes of low fills. And I was like, sure. I haven't had any like gold foils. And then he had the open offer of like, I have a massive cellar of gold foils. If you want anything, just let me know. I'll bring it in.
Rumpkin.
Yeah.
100 times Rumpkin.
And I was like, yeah, I'll hit you up for something like that. I usually always just, share all that kind of stuff with all my friends. So I appreciate it. Everyone else I share beer with appreciates it. But the Quinntiki, it's named after Colin Quinn, a coworker of mine, not the comedian.
I was going to say, what a weird...
Yeah. If you look on the label, there's a little leprechaun there, because he is very Irish and very ginger. And it is a homage to tiki drinks. It's 16.2%, rum barrel aged, coconut, pineapple, nutmeg, and it's fantastic. I want to put it on ice and drink it. Like level of like it tastes like a cocktail more than it does a like blonde 16.2% beer.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it is very, very good.
Yeah, they definitely knocked that one out of the fucking park.
Nice,
in my opinion.
Yes, and it was very, very timely, because I was starting to make more and more tiki drinks, and you're like, Zach, I know you like tiki, so here is this.
Yes. Yeah. I think I've already burned through like a whole case, just giving them out to friends and other people. But I still have like 12 to 15 left. So, but they're only 12 ounces, so they go fast.
Yes, I do.
But my Avery adventure continues. The tap room's going to open up here on the 24th, so a little over a week. We'll see what that ends up looking like.
Right on.
We're still eating corned beef from St. Patrick's Day for our free lunch.
Oh my god.
Nice.
The kitchen's just trying to invent new ways for us to eat corned beef. Because, corned beef lasts forever. Like, that's the point of corned beef, right? And we had corned beef egg rolls, corned beef, pulled pork sandwich type things. Just it's in everything.
Were any of them duds?
Yeah, but nothing was like, this is bad. It's just this isn't as good as this thing was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever had nachos with corned beef on them?
No, I cannot say that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not
different,
winning
but it's
me
not
over
bad.
here.
Yeah, the corned beef nachos were interesting.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
right on.
Yeah, still working nights. But everything's going great.
Yeah. My schedule, I just found out, is changing a little bit. I'm moving, so I've been working Thursday through Sunday. I'm now switching to where I'll work Saturday through Tuesday. So that won't really have any immediate effects on my life, but at some point,
you get a
if
Friday
things...
free, right?
Exactly.
But he has
so
to wake up.
Yeah,
I still have to get up crazy early on Saturday,
Yeah.
but
still Friday.
yeah. Well, and then when we get back to being able to do game nights on Wednesday, I won't have to get up Thursday morning anymore, so I can get riggedy wrecked. And even Thursday nights, Thursday nights are a pretty common night for people to go out drinking and doing things, and so I'll be able to do things on Thursday night again, which will be great. So yeah,
whenever the Alamo opens up again and we see Thursday night movies, you can now join us.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
God, I miss movies.
I guess I could go to really early Alamo showings now.
That's true.
Yeah.
There you go. Otherwise, not a whole lot new going on in my life. I started playing Satisfactory.
Oh man.
Finally. Well, I guess all of us have
finally
been playing that now, so.
Yeah. Yep. I can see how it takes over everything.
Yep.
At all times. I appreciate that they don't have it's survival in that you have health and you can die if you fall really far, or the handful of mean beasts, but you don't have to worry about food or water.
Yeah.
So,
that's the worst part of survival.
Yeah. So especially where this is a factory game, and sometimes you're just you really need thousands of screws, and it's well, I've got a good power source set up. I'm just gonna step away from the computer for 20 to 30 minutes and just let it chug away making parts.
Yeah, that's what I did with... so there's a big space elevator. I had posted it on Slack, and Zach was like, that looks fucking awesome, and then ended up buying the game.
Yep.
And that's what I did one night to get us to the next tier on my server. Is I just let it run because we had all the parts for it. It just needed time to make all the space elevator parts. And now it's aluminum, and it's a fucking distant nightmare like oil was. So
oh god,
that's when
oil.
we get time, we gotta get into that again.
Yep. When we first had to breach that oil, I had logged on, and Jeff was like, "All right, we need to get oil to go up," and I'm like, "Well, where's our closest one?" And he's like, 2 kilometers away. And I was like, "Son of a bitch!" And I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna go look for it. See you in a fucking hour."
Yeah. And then the aluminum is that, except you have to go up a cliff and a waterfall.
Oh, gotcha.
I made a tube system because it has the Futurama people tubes in the game.
Yep.
Hyperloop. Yeah. And that's all I've done with it. I put a miner on it, but there's no power, there's no nothing. But I also haven't played it in over a week, so.
Yeah. Well, and recently we had played on Adrian's
yeah,
server.
his nightmare.
Yep.
It's not. It's
See, when
not
you
even that
split
bad.
off a splitter and you only go to 3 things off of each one, you can't expand that system at all. Now you're stuck with that 3, and you can't ever go to 4, 5, or 6. So when you do that line with all the splitters in it, you could keep expanding and not have to worry about the limitation of just coming off of each one of those splitters. And that's why that's why I do the lines.
You can do a new splitter on the line that came out of a splitter just fine.
But then that's half, or that's a third split into a half.
I mean, that's what it is when it's a big line of them anyway.
No, because if you have enough flow, it's going to fill all of them equally, and you can expand equally, because those lines do 270 parts per minute. And as long as your capacity isn't over that, and you can just always upgrade those to Mark 4 or Mark 5 for the conveyor belts.
You can't see it, but I am rolling my eyes so hard.
Now, and Jeff, to be fair, when Adrian first started going and I was helping him build some stuff, I'm like, FYI, at some point when Jeff gets on, you're going to be doing something and he's going to be like, no, this is garbage, and just tear it up and then fix it. And you'll get mad on the one where he does it while you are actually building it. And it took about, 15 minutes, I think, before when you got onto his, that you're like, oh, I got to, and then Adrian's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I was like, all right, like I've got this great little concrete thing going. I can actually like build this platform. Like once I saw like your thing up above, Zach, that you did, where it was like, oh man, building on a foundation is fucking great.
Yeah.
Let me like start this foundation over here, and I'm going to plan out this factory the way I want, like to where things will flow the way I want them to flow, and that makes logical sense for me. And I was working on that, and yeah, sure enough, Jeff came over and was like, no, this is all bad. This is all bad.
And it was
Just
bad.
ripped it apart.
And it's better.
And finally, I was just like, all right, well, fuck this. You tear it apart. I'm going to go work on getting more fucking coal.
Yep. That's what I did when I was helping Jeff with something. And then he's like, no, I'm going to tear it and make it new. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's why I haven't been enjoying this game a lot as like the second person.
Not the primary.
Not the primary, because I can help build, but then I can also just fuck off too. And do, like, I think one of the times you were building something, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take this tractor, and I'm just going to drive around for an hour and see what's going on. And you're like, okay, bye.
That map is massive. There's,
Yes, it
like, a
is.
ton of stuff. There's, like,
crazy
exploration stuff you could do into them.
Yep.
And there's, like, 3 other maps.
Yes.
Well, no. So the other things that you choose like at the start for a new one, those aren't new maps. That's just a different part of that massive fucking map.
Okay.
Like you can go from one of those start locations to the other ones later.
Gotcha.
It's huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like desert.
I was
mountains.
watching a video about it today, and I got a bunch of cool new tips, like little stuff. Like if you do Alt mouse wheel, that's how you change. So you can have like 10 different hotbars of 10 items
Just
each.
added that in the last patch.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's brand new.
Yeah, so that's like fucking sweet. Well, because I'd asked Zach, because like I saw that by the hotbar they had like a little dial with a 1, and it looked like you could do more. And I was like, Zach, do you know how to switch to like other hotbars? And he was like, no. All right, well, I won't worry about it.
All I know is that your factory got a lot better once we could have the Blade Runners, and it'll get even better once you get the jetpack.
Yes.
I still prefer the Blade Runners.
I do like that the Blade Runners make you go faster, but just being able to just like not have to worry about anything being higher than you, and you can just sort of bounce around with those. And then especially if you're on like, because we started building Mark IV conveyor belts, like running on one of those and then hitting your jetpack, you go fucking far.
Yeah. Yeah. You need like a little conveyor belt boost.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been factoring it up a lot on Satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has Steam and Epic Games crossplay, which I wasn't expecting, and I'm really glad that it has it.
That also got added in just the most recent patch.
Yep.
Because they added session
Well, 'cause-
IDs, which is what you connect with now instead of via Epic, which was the only platform it was on.
Yeah. Well, it made sense that they added it when they
Expanded
it
to Steam.
To Steam, yes.
Yep.
Because that's when I picked it up.
Yeah, that would have been silly for them to be like, all right, now we're putting it on Steam, but you'll get to play with other people later. That they thought ahead enough to just be like, okay, well, if we're releasing on another platform, you should at least be able to join that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiplayer still fucking unstable though.
Yeah,
It's gotten better.
There's some problems.
If you're the second player, from what you got, because I've never
The
noticed
host is
any
fine.
issues.
Yeah, the host's fine. No, that's where I've been fine with it because I've always been the second player, so I'm always noticing these weird fucking glitches that are going on.
Like there's a little UI that or a compass that tells you where people are, and that does not update regularly enough to know exactly where they are.
Yep.
When I was like, Adrian, where's your rotor supply? And he was like, it's by me. And then I kept running to where it said you were, and you're you're running the opposite direction. I was like, I'm going towards where it says you are.
Yep.
Besides that, we've been doing some Sea of Thieves.
Yes.
With Ofer, his friend Dan, Zach, and I.
Because it's on PC now, and
well, it's been on PC for a while. It's been on PC forever, but now it's on Steam.
Right. Yes.
And it's always been on Game Pass, and I downloaded that like right when it started, but no one else was playing. So. Yeah.
And you can play it. You can cross-play with Xbox players too.
Which is what Over has. So.
Yep.
It's interesting. You have like personal progression with like reputations and stuff like that, but your boat and crew, or your boat and treasure and stuff resets every time. But you always want to try and reset that every time you go back to port, anyways. But the only thing you really lose is materials like boards and cannonballs and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the majority of stuff you have, like everything that you can buy, more or less, is just cosmetic.
Yeah,
so
it's,
like your
it's
weapons,
all cosmetic, except there's some flags you can get with those reputations that help with rep, like tabards in World of Warcraft or something like that.
Yeah. But I'd say I've been enjoying it, especially, sailing around, giving you that Black Flag vibes.
Yeah.
Wow. Especially when you get caught in a storm, you're like, oh my god. And it was Ofer was getting a little seasick just from all, like, especially if he was.
Because if you're down below, and the ship moves, and you're not moving, but the ship is, and. We've only had one real PvP situation because it is a total PvPvE game.
Yep.
When Zach and I were playing in the little 2-player sloop ship, some people invaded us, and I pulled off a fucking miracle and killed both of them like back to back.
Yeah.
And like barely bailed out our ship, and then just started fucking hammering their ship before they could respawn and sunk it. And this was all while we're sitting at port. Like, there's no protection or anything like that in this game. Like, they were clearly waiting for someone to come back to port, because that's usually when you're coming back with treasure and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You can even see them talking in chat, being like, oh, we needed so-and-so. Like, oh, we're going to cannonballs. Like, they're clearly looting our ship.
Yep.
But I murdered them and sank their ship, and it was awesome.
There was another one where I was playing with just Ofer and his friend Dan, where we had another ship come, you might have been there, Jeff, I don't remember.
The friendly ship?
Yeah, the friendly.
Yeah.
They were like super high level, you could tell.
They had crazy cosmetics. Like,
yeah.
Like, one of the dudes looked like a fucking Terminator. He had like a glowing chest.
Like one was like a thief lord or something like that.
Yeah,
and
like titles.
It was like, oh, yep. And then they like came on and they're like, friend or foe, and all of us were like, friend, oh my god, friend.
Then they came over to our ship, and we played music, got an achievement for playing with more than 5 players.
Yeah.
And then we left, and they sailed off, and then we ran into a pirate, or a skeleton ship that came up like fucking Davy Jones, straight out of the fucking Pirate of the Caribbean, like out of the water, like a submarine, and then and a megalodon, giant shark at the same time.
What?
And I can only assume that they must have done something on our ship that made us summon those.
Yeah.
Because they both happened at the same time in the middle of the water, and then we died. Well, our ship sank.
One thing that I noticed with the high level people is that you could get into the cannon and then shoot yourself to like.
And I had known that forever, but I just
didn't know. Yeah,
just didn't know.
Didn't know. You shoot yourself to an island, but I was just like, oh, let me. I'm gonna hop on this, and I want to shoot. I want to shoot on the other boat and see if I can't like fight the pirates there. Except before I got a chance to really say that, I think it was either Ofer or his friend was shooting at the ship, and I don't think they realized that I was in there. So they just shot it at the side, and so I just hit the side and then just fell into the water. I was like, God damn it, no!
Yeah, that'll happen.
but it's been fun. It's not something I would could play.
It's not very deep.
It's not very deep, but
at least that we've
been
seen
fun.
yet, because you have to get all the reps up to level 100, and then you get the tall tales, which are big long quest lines and stuff like that.
To quote Jeff, that's when the real Sea of Thieves.
The real Sea of Thieves begins now. We need to get back into the division as well. We got into the expansion stuff. We killed the first expansion boss of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
The division's fun too. So
yeah,
lots of stuff.
Mm-hmm. You don't need to go back to Division, because I don't have any way of getting that. I can get Sea of Thieves.
No, you can buy it, Adrian.
Yeah.
You can buy it.
No. Because I already know. If I buy it, that guarantees you'll never play it again.
You're well behind. No, because if you buy the expansion, you get a free character boost to the expansion level stuff. You can just boost a character to that, and then you'd be with us.
But then you would have to get it on the Epic Store, so...
No.
Is it on Steam?
It's on Ubisoft. I think it's on Steam.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Yes.
But that's what we've been doing. Oh,
yeah.
It is
one
only
final
on the
thing.
Ubisoft Store.
There you go.
Yeah.
With all this extra free time, I decided to rewatch all the Marvel movies. So I did
Again?
that.
Oh.
Again. Except for...
The Incredible
I did
Hulk?
not watch The Incredible Hulk, because if you remember when I was rating them, once there was an ability to be the worst Marvel movie, it took that title and just held it forever.
Yep. Is it followed by Thor 2?
It is.
Yeah.
Which I still watch, but after watching it this time, I was like, I'd probably skip it next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were playing Satisfactory.
Yeah.
You and I, Zach, and you were like, all right, well, I'm going to get off. I got to go watch Dark World. And I was like, wait, what? Why? What are you doing?
You made an appointment
no.
to watch The Dark World?
I felt hurt. I was like, you're leaving playing Satisfactory with me to go watch Dark World?
Yeah.
Is my factory that bad?
That was the Dark World. But I'll still mostly very good. So.
Right on. Well, I think that lets us slide on over into a bloody minute, which with there being 3 weeks since the last time we recorded, I can only assume that Jeff has some fucking Blood Bowl to talk about.
Yeah. So our last season ended, and we have moved on to a third season with all new teams. In our last season, I think it was the Tom's Norse team that ended up at the top, but we ended up doing a playoff for just all of the 10 teams that were in there. Who wanted to go into a playoff, and there were 8 teams that wanted to go into a playoff, so we're in the midst of those playoffs right now. I still have to play my first round playoff game against the person I played last season that absolutely murdered my team. I was Shambling Undead versus Necromantic. Necromantic has werewolves and stuff like that. I was playing Shambling Undead to try out the Mummies, which are 2 big guys with no nega traits. Start with Mighty Blow. I just had a series of unlucky casualties, multiple dead or strength break mummies. In my last game against the Necromantic, they killed another mummy. It was the one mummy that didn't die twice. So I'm on my 3rd mummy for one position and my 2nd for the next, and then I just face him again with a worse team in this next game. So that's probably going to go poorly. So that'll probably be the end of my Shambling Undead test. Shambling Undead have, in NAF records, the 2nd most win rate behind Wood Elves, which I don't understand. I am clearly missing something or playing something wrong. It probably ended up being where my Shambling Undead team got... the Whites got Mighty Blow on their first skill, which is understandable. They start with block and regen. And then their second skill were both doubles, so I took dodge, which probably would have been more useful to have guard or tackle or something like that was earlier. One of my Whites got tackle, but then the next one got a plus edge. He has dodge, and now he's edge 4. Of course I'm going to take the edge, because now he's a fucking elf. Elf White. But the mummies have been struggling to get any casualties. I was looking at some of their stats for their casualties per game, and like one mummy has it at like 0.09 casualties per game. Like off of 74 blocks, they've gotten one casualty with Mighty Blow, which feels insane to me. But yeah. So that'll be the end of my Shambling Undead team after this playoff round. The new season of Kill, though, on Fumble, Ant did something interesting. So every team got 6 free skill upgrades. So you could just nominate players, and they would get a free regular skill of your choice. You couldn't do doubles or stats or anything like that, but you could just make a bigger team, because Ant wanted to try a league with like 1.2 million starting and 6 free skills. So basically starting as a season 2 or 3 team. So we could this season try and feel what like a season 3 or 4 league would feel like off of just, starting out. So what everyone decided to do was make bash teams. And so we have 2 Nurgle teams, an Orc team, Norse, Chaos Chosen, Dwarves, Chaos Dwarves, Khorne, Tomb Kings, and then sadly humans. And so everyone got those 6 skills. But the cool thing is, when you do something like that in Fumble, you get that skill, but also when you hit that first skill upgrade at 6-star player points, you still get a skill. It's not like it took that first slot. So whoever got those skills is getting an additional skill more than would be possible in a regular season. So there's been a lot of interesting dynamics going. I decided to go with Tomb Kings, another undead team, because I haven't played a lot of undead. I was thinking Necromantic, but in this league, I was like, let's go with Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings have the luxury of 4 big guys, but they do have a nega trait. They have Decay, which means if they take a casualty, they take 2 casualty rolls and keep both. So if one of your Tomb Guardians takes a Kaz, it's real bad. They have regeneration, but with the free skills, I am able to freely give all of those Tomb Guardians Mighty Blow, which makes them much more useful because they're all strength 5. They're a little faster than the mummies on Shambling Undead, which are only fucking move 3. These are at least move 4, still edge 1. You have 2 blitzers. The hard part about Tomb Kings is everyone is edge 2, except the Tomb Guardians that are edge 1. So you have your throwers that have sure hands, so at least you have a 75% chance of picking up the ball on a 4+. And their armor's not great. So they have skeleton linemen, their armor 7, move 5, strength 3. They have regen. They also have thick skull, so they only get KO'd on a 9 instead of an 8 or 9. But Tomb Kings is also a big foul team, which is what I was trying to do with the Shambling Undead. It just never ended up working. The fouls on my Tomb Kings have been great. We're on the 3rd game of the Tomb Kings. I have 1 loss, 1 tie, and 1 win. My casualty and touchdown differential are all in the negatives currently, because my first 2 games were against fucking Nurgle. Back-to-back. And if you know how much I love Nurgle, you'll have to just know from my previous games how much I fucking hate Nurgle. Because anytime you want to block any of them, you need a 2+. And they have a bunch of strength 4 guys, so they're like Chaos. And now, with this league where everyone gets free skills, all of those Nurgle warriors get free block. The big guy gets stand firm / guard, whatever. First game didn't go great. Ended up in a tie. When I have complained about, like, man, my dice sure were bad in that game. Well, we'll look at this game to see exactly what my skulls and both down were. I rolled 14 skull both downs in this game.
Oh my god.
14. So that was either double skull, double both down, or both down skull. And that's not counting my blitzers who have block where the both down doesn't matter. Tomb Guardians rolled skulls and both down 14 times. I had a combined 44% of my block dice be skulls or block down or both down in that game. It was absolutely fucking ridiculous. Whenever I ever say it could always be worse, it was worse. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I even got a bunch of free. I started the team with 4 rerolls, which is higher than average, but we had the 1.2 million. And it's because everyone's Edge 2, it's harder to pick up the ball. There is a built-in reroll on 2-year players for picking up the ball, but Edge 2, it's hard, especially if you have to dodge anyone away. And I spent like 4 of 5, because I got a free reroll, on Skulls both downs in that first half. It was absolutely ridiculous. Ended up tying that one. It should have been me winning 1-0, but it was a lot of times like Skull both down, reroll, double skull, reroll, skull both down. It was just over and 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 over. Second game, it was against Tom's Nurgle, so it was Nurgle. In my first game, I ended up taking a strength break on one of my Blitz Raws. They're the guys that come with block, of course, and I gave him Mighty Blow, so that was one of my free skills. And I was just like, if I blow one of the free skills, I'm down basically a whole skill in this league. But one of the things about Fumble is they have a bunch of like weird bonuses. So I played Fumble 15 plus years ago, and if you had ever played a game in one of their first million games, they gave you a bonus. The bonus was a heal potion. The heal potion can heal any injury, maybe besides death. Pretty sure besides death. From any of your characters. So he took a strength break. I was going up against Nurgle again. I couldn't even take a mercenary blitzer. I would just be taking a loner skeleton lineman or a reroll or something like that. Well, probably a reroll, because that'd be under 100. And so I used my heal potion on him. Went into the next game. Went better. I still lost 2-0, but it wasn't an actual like fucking blowout. That the first game was, but I got no real casualties. I did get one strength break on a Pestigore on just kind of a flimsy die. Tom had a lot of really lucky 1-dies, which was really pissed me off. He threw like 6 1-die blocks, and all but 1 were successful, which sucked. Successful means it's a POW or knockdown. Makes an armor roll on. So that sucked. But my most recent game, which I played today, in fact, was against the other Jeff in the league. He won the championship before I did. He played the Dark Elves. So it was Jeff on Jeff. And both of us have been having a real rough time in our first couple rounds. Thankfully, my luck broke, but his didn't. And his Corn team ended with 2 missed next games, a minus move, a dead Bloodthirster, which is this big guy, and a dead lineman. I fouled his lineman to death because he was the only threat against my ball carrier. He could have dodged and gotten to him. Even if it was like a 4+, 3+, 2+ to blitz, it's worth having the foul because they're all armor 7 to just try and take him out. But little did I know that I murdered the absolute shit out of him. Turn 1, which was actually turn 2 because we got a riot on the first turn, which negated a turn. I killed his fucking Bloodthirster. His Bloodthirster has regeneration. It was just like a 2-die block, knocked him down, boom, dead. Just fucking murdered the shit out of his Bloodthirster. He now has the lowest TV in our league at 11-10.
Rude, Jeff.
Because
it seemed like it was the right decision.
Absolutely. Like the Bloodthirster was the thing that was gonna hurt. He had equal strength. He's like a Minotaur. He has wild animal, so as long as he's blocking, he just needs a 2+ to be able to do anything. He got his 1 free hit. Of course, he has Claw and Mighty Blow, which turns every armor roll of 7 into an armor break because your armor is 7, and he uses Mighty Blow to turn it into 8, and then that's a break. So I killed the shit out of his Bloodthirster. Not on purpose. I mean, I always just want to do badly hurt. I never want to do severe damage to anyone, but he followed up the turn after by killing one of my throwers. But my thrower regenerated. But unfortunately, his Bloodthirster did not. So he has 3 journeymen for his next game. He's still got all of his bloodletters and his heralds, which are the kind of the positionals that are good for that. Ant is absolutely destroying fucking everyone in this league. Ant is playing orcs. He has 17 casualties in 3 games. It is absolutely insane how much Ant is running roughshod over everyone that he's played so far. I play him in 2 games. It's going to be bad.
Good luck with
Excellent.
Yeah, I've never played
Excellent
Tomb
use.
Kings. He's a Tomb King fan. He almost played Tomb Kings for this league. So I do not look forward to just getting murdered against his orc team here coming soon.
By the way, excellent use of the phrase "running roughshod."
Yes. It's a cavalry term.
Yeah, I super appreciate you using that term and using it well.
Yeah. Orcs doing well. Tom's Nurgle second place. I've pulled into third somehow, but I'm the only other person that's played 3 games, so it's probably the only reason. I've been enjoying Tomb King so far. They're interesting. I've been trying to play teams that I haven't really played before, and teams that aren't like tier 1 teams. I haven't done the stunty thing or anything like that yet, but Fumble is a great place to play a lot of games that go pretty quick because they take much less time than just general tabletop. But Fumble's going strong. We've played over a year of tabletop equivalent in just a couple months, 3 months, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been like kind of crazy how fast you've moved through leagues.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah, and I mean, Ant's a fantastic league runner. I mean, he literally runs the NAF president for leagues, so he's pretty good to keep everyone on top and on schedule and stuff like that. And everyone has crazy schedules. I mean, mine's hard for a lot of people, but I can play a game at like 11 a.m. when people are free and stuff like that. So yeah,
right on.
Blood Bowl's going. It's going hard. This is definitely an interesting season. Looking forward to seeing how my team gets murdered soon.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think my next game is against the Necromantic team Tuesday for the playoff for the previous season.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up the Bloody Minute. There's no Kingdom Death Hour this week.
Almost
today. But I think
Almost
I heard
today.
that
Yep.
you guys were going to play soon? Or were you supposed to play today and it didn't happen?
Yeah, Thursby couldn't make it today, so we scheduled for next week.
Fucking Thursby.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
So
we
maybe
even,
next
we even
week.
had like a interim one score, and then Paul was just like, "Ugh, I got too much stuff to do, so I'm gonna bail." And he's the one that offered it too.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "You son of a bitch."
Son of a bitch.
Yeah. So next week, assuming nothing else happens in the world that is so tragic that we feel like we need to take another fucking week off, or 2 weeks, or longer.
Or Yellowstone just explodes and just gets it all over with.
Yeah.
At this point, that'd be like the sweet release of death. But yeah, so maybe some Kingdom Death Hour next week.
Yes. With the scribe updates, it seems like it's just getting nicer and nicer.
Oh god, yes.
Yeah.
Cannot
Right
wait
on.
to get back on it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that lets us move on over to some news and Kickstarters then.
Yes. First up in news this week, Magic the Gathering has decided to ban some less than ideal card names and flavor text and art that has been floating around for quite a few years now.
Yeah. I think it's pretty safe to say that some of these are just straight up fucking racist.
Yep.
Some of them are just, the optics. Not real great.
One particular
Like-
artist has been known to not be great.
Yeah. So the cards that they've gotten rid of, I don't really play Magic, so I don't know any of these by name. I've seen the pictures and the card images now because they're everywhere. But Invoke Prejudice, Cleanse, Stone Throwing Devils, Prattish Gypsies, Jihad, Imprison, and Crusade. And the one that's the by far the worst offender would be Invoke Prejudice, which was drawn by Harold McNeil. And he's a super fucking racist. Like, people have been pointing out, like, that he's done a ton of racist art and things. Like, he regularly draws all kinds of neo-Nazi shit and things like that. And the card art is not great. And then on top of all of that, it was one that threw Wizards, like, weird, like, way they number their cards.
You gotta
It
hope
got-
that it was all coincidence.
So
Yeah,
the way that I read up on like how they number, it's like by alphabetization, by color, by set, and it was just some absolute crazy coincidence because they're not specifically, hopefully in this situation,
chosen.
assigned to any specific card. It's probably just a cosmic coincidence that number landed right there.
Yeah, it came out being 1488, which is a super white supremacist, like, major number, neo-Nazi number, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, when I saw they were banning cards, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, they probably had some that were a little, like, questionable, and I started, like, one of the first articles I read about it, they were like, banning card number 1488, and I was like, okay, so that, like, they realized that number's bad, so maybe they moved the card to something else, and they were like, invoke prejudice. I was like, ooh, that's an unfortunate name for that number. And then I looked at the card and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What has fucking happened? How did this ever happen?
It's one of those things where you're like, oh, it's good that they're getting rid of some of this stuff, but also, how did these last this long?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you sort of know the answer to that, which is never good.
Yeah. So, but they're getting rid of them, and they're gone from all formats. All of it's gone. So
yeah, but even on their card lists, they've removed the art from their website. Like, it's not on there anymore. It gives you like the text and stuff like that for it, but the card art is no longer there.
Yeah. So.
And then of course the others like Crusade and Jihad, etc. Problematic names like the stone throwing devils is on the surface level not all that offensive with North American sensibilities, but stone throwing is a slur in other countries, which is the main reason they got rid of that one.
Yeah, or like cleanse is one that's like kind of just an unfortunate thing where like in Magic you have different cards grouped in like colors, and the cleanse one is like get rid of all black creatures, and like it means like the black colored like in the game one, not like actual black creatures, but the wording and everything on it is just like, yeah, nope, let's just cover anything like that and get rid of it. This is definitely the kind of thing where like I definitely agree with erring very firmly on the side of caution.
Yes.
Yeah. A combination of just bad wording and flavor text and stuff like that just gives you a bad vibe.
And the vast majority of these are pretty old cards.
Yes.
As well, but
they're old cards in like Magic terms, but like the Prejudice card was printed in 1994, and I was like, that was one of those like everything about that card. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, for sure.
So. But this is why, like board gaming,
like
nerdy
Nights era
was
Magic
their first
Gathering.
expansion.
Yes.
Yeah. But some of these things are the reasons why, like for a long time, a lot of nerd culture was seen as a place that was pretty much just for straight white guys. And that's why it's important to try and change that. Because, like, if you're a straight white guy, you might not think of some of those things. Like, you might not really think twice about cleanse being like, get rid of all black creatures. And you're like, oh, yeah, like, black is just one of the, like, 6 or 7 colors that are the main colors of things in Magic. And no, it's not a race thing at all. But then if, you're a black guy, you might be like, that reminds me of some history.
Yeah.
And, so all part of making gaming much more open, friendly, accessible.
Yeah.
And inclusive.
Fun Magic the Gathering fact. December of 1994 was when Black Lotus reached $50 on the secondary market.
50 whole dollars, you don't say.
That's like a multi-$1,000 card now,
like
isn't it?
$33,000.
Yeah,
for like
Jesus Christ.
For like a mint one, yeah.
Oh my God. There was one that recently sold on eBay for $166,000.
Jesus.
What the
Holy
fuck?
shit.
Jesus.
That was March 2019.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Wow. But yeah, so that's Magic the Gathering, getting rid of some unfortunately named and or straight up fucking racist cards.
Yeah, for the best.
definitely.
I've been dabbling in trying to get into Magic the Gathering Arena, but Hearthstone still kind of takes my heart, even though I've sort of fallen off on Hearthstone recently. But yeah, I'm always Magic the Gathering curious, but not so much money.
So much.
So much.
I knew a lot of people who played it in high school, in like kind of the late 90s and early 2000s, but it was always one of those things where it was just a touch too nerdy for me in high school. And I never fully took the plunge.
Yeah. It's me more junior high. Next up on news, conventions continue to be canceled in more than one way.
Yes.
Let's say.
Yeah.
So we'll start off at the top with the happier side of things. So Shucks 20 is unfortunately officially canceled.
They were moving to like an online sort of thing, like some of them are doing, right? Is that what it was?
Kind of.
Shucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a brilliant fucking name.
Yeah.
Yes. But like, it just keeps continuing. The Gen Con finally got canceled too.
Essen's done.
Essen, yep.
And it's going to keep happening. Like here in the U.S., like we really never even have gotten out of the first wave. And everybody was like, fuck it. It's basically in the past. Let's open things back up. And then we had things opening, and then we had a whole fuck ton of massive protests, and like COVID's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
So conventions are, they're just going to keep dropping. Basically at this point, I think any major convention is just, you might as well just plan on it being gone for 2020.
That's why I did not end up buying the BGG Con ticket this year, because I was like, I know it's November, but there's still a good chance, and this Shucks is in October, but it's also in Texas, so they could just be like, fuck it, we're Texas. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, like Texas might still be like, hey, fuck it, we'll have your convention, but I imagine the people who run the convention, I'd like to think that they're a little bit more, intelligent than the general Texas leadership. So, unfortunately, 2020 will be the year of really no fucking cons at all.
No.
They do mention in their little press release for Shucks that they are planning on Shucks 21, which makes sense. Like that one now is over a year in the future, and by then things should be well under control, or we've just descended into Mad Max, in which case nobody cares about board game conventions anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they got a bunch of information if you're planning on going about getting refunds for hotels and things like that, and then like what they're trying to do with Shucks, their digital event to replace it. So. On the less exciting and happy side of cancellations, Origins is canceled, as is basically all of Origins online stuff. So it really basically came down to, there's been complaints for a long time about Gamma, the organization who kind of runs Origins, and like their board not being very diverse and them not really taking issues of inclusion and diversity very seriously. And it kind of all came to a head over the last like week and a half to 2 weeks, where all of a sudden a shit ton of their major contributors were like, nope, like if you're not gonna make solid effort at trying to support inclusivity and diversity in all aspects of your organization, then we're not going to support you.
But like,
and so
like, in mainly it was just like not even a statement was made or anything like that.
Yeah, they didn't say shit about like the protests or Black Lives Matter or anything. They just kept their mouths completely quiet. Which I like, some people, not necessarily myself, but some people I've expressed they don't understand why like everybody needs to make some kind of positive affirmation, especially if they're not actively involved in that kind of thing. But this really is one of those things, like we talked about at the beginning of the show. This feels like that kind of like overwhelming moment of change in our society, where it's really time to make it very clear where you stand on this. And
a lack of statement is sort of a statement now.
Yeah. Rage Against the Machine back in the 90s saying about silence is violence.
Yeah.
And it right now, especially, it really feels that way. It feels like, you know, if this point, if you're afraid of like losing fans because you say Black Lives Matter, like what kind of fans are you worried about losing when you say that right now?
Yeah.
You know, either you believe it or you don't. And that speaks volumes. So, yeah, so Shucks, or not Shucks, I still have that tab opened. Origins, super canceled. Origins Online, super canceled.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's all done. And we'll see if that even, if like, I don't know if Gamma, the Origin side of Gamma anyway, I don't know if that'll happen again. Like, I don't know. Some people have talked about that, like, they feel like it might actually be the final nail in the coffin for Origins. So, I don't know. Time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I was possibly in line for working at Origins this year.
Yeah, I went to Origins 2 years ago, and I had a blast there. Like, I thought it was a great convention. I was really happy to get to work for Deepwater Games when I was there. You know, so it's unfortunate that it all went down that way. But
yeah, even the online Origins Online's canceled for later this year.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Conventions are donezo for 2020. Just that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Next bit of news.
But the next bit of news, all of those games that were going to get announced at all those conventions are still getting announced.
So BGG has had a bunch, like they always have like these con previews of, you know, when com's coming up, they'll, you know, have lists of all the games that are being, you know, talked about, whether they're going to be released there or demoed or any of that stuff.
And we've done whole shows around those.
Exactly. But
Yes.
with, you know, conventions not being a thing, they are still going to be keeping track of, you know, what new games are coming out, that, you know, in quarters and stuff like that, with different information and all that. So it's good that they're still trying to keep you informed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, they've broken it up into 3 blocks. Games that'll be hitting retail between June 1st, 2 weeks ago, and August 31st, which is roughly the Origins and Gen Con crowd. And that game release preview is up now on BGG if you want to go look at it. Then there's going to be games hitting retail from September 1st to October 31st, which is the Spiel timeframe, and then November 1st to December 31st, which is like holiday releases. And so they're going to do new game previews for those 3 broad chunks of time. And like I said, that first one is up now. Top of that one, surprisingly enough, if you sort by thumbs, the hot games on that list,
the most thumbs.
The top 2 are both coming from Capstone. Number 1 on that list with 45 thumbs, New York Zoo, which is the latest game, one of the latest games from Uwe Rosenberg. And it's going to be
I'm
like
guessing some sort of polyomino thing.
You would have guessed
polyomino,
Yeah.
And what would you say is maybe another mechanic that he's well known for across a lot of games?
Some sort of like farming thing or something like that, or breeding animals.
Breeding animals. So you're doing a zoo and you're trying to breed your animals in your zoo. So you use polyominoes to build your zoo, and then you try and get your zoo animals to make more zoo animals.
Now the real question is, no matter how many flamingos I have, will it only add 1 flamingo a turn?
I guarantee it. But now the real question is, can you eat that flamingo?
I don't know if there's a feeding mechanic in New York Zoo. I would like to think that the zoos in New York aren't like desperate to feed their workers.
Can I feed the flamingo to the foxes or something like that?
I don't have answers for that.
Well,
yeah. And then number 2 on that list from Capstone is Ride the Rails, which is their latest in their Iron Rails series of fairly fast-playing little train games.
yeah, that one just went up for pre-order recently, so that one's coming
pre-orders just delivered.
Okay, so it's probably hitting retail in like 2 weeks. On my refresh
like
here, Targi.
Release date of 1st July 2020.
Yeah. What, Targi?
Yeah, and then number
Targi.
I think. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. I've always said Targi. But yes, the expansion for Targi is in the top 3 there. Megan and I really like Targi. Nick on Slack has been very adamant that Targi is a fantastic game. I finally caved and bought it.
Well, it is an expansion.
And then Megan and I loved it. Yes. And so this is the expansion that I am excited for because Targi was great and I would like more.
There's Targi and Targi, the expansion.
Yes. Cosmos not fucking around with clever names.
I've been seeing Forgotten Waters floating around out there. Ugh.
Yeah.
I felt sick.
Nope, you just gotta embrace it. You just gotta feel the warmth of that.
The real vomity warmth.
Yep. You just peed in that pool, but you just gotta
swim around in it.
Yeah. I haven't played Forgotten Waters, but it looks like it's been fairly popular.
Yeah.
The Fort, the Root-esque
art.
Yeah. Kyle
theme.
Farron? Somebody Farron?
Kyle Farron, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. And Leader Games.
SPQF re-implementation?
So do you say you should be saying this as FORT then, right? Obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I hate it.
High Rise, which had those Kickstarter problems for so long. That one should be coming out here pretty soon, but probably not as luxurious as the Kickstarter originally was. My City, which I think was a Spiel nominee.
Yes, it was.
Unmatched on here, which is a whole system, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Which, So, bunch of stuff on there.
Yeah.
Expansions, new games, all kinds of stuff. Basically everything releasing between June and August of this year. You can go browse through the geek list there and check them all out.
And that's it for news.
Indeed. News is done now, forever.
I wish.
Thank God.
I wish news was
I'm ready to be done with news.
Yeah. But we move on to Kickstarters. One Kickstarter today. And it's one that'll probably end before you hear this. So, but we still want to talk about it because it's cool.
They'll have a whole day to listen to this. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't end until Thursday, June 18th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time.
They'll have 30 hours and 30 minutes.
Ofer and May will have until noon on Thursday. Like, they've got time.
But if you haven't heard of this one, it is Nemesis Lockdown. Very, very well funded. Probably very highly funded on the all-time, no less. $5.2 million of its $50,000 goal. Almost 33,000 backers. Just a few hours left from the time you hear this. With its most popular pledge being $132, closely followed by its insane $307 pledge. Just behind that.
Jesus Christ.
That's all in, baby.
It's all in. Nemesis Lockdown. It is the way you can get Nemesis. That is very popular.
7,000. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Have you played Nemesis yet, Adrian?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
And I wish I had because I kind of want to get this, but not without having played it. So
Yeah.
So I guess this was originally going to be a standalone expansion Kickstarter with no access to the original base game or anything like that. And then they were like, well, I guess we should throw in the base game. And that has done them well with, the 4.2 or $5.2 million. So Nemesis Lockdown is an expansion to the game. You still need the base game. It's going to add in 4 more classes. And then it's going to add in some new sculpts for the aliens. It's going to add in the Night Stalkers. Because the original Kickstarter had like the Carrion or something like that. They look like the necromorph kind of stuff from Dead Space. These more look like Pitch Black, kind of, but bats. It's going to come with a new board and a bunch of new room tiles. Because, that's all the room tiles are randomized and stuff like that. There's going to be a new secret lab board, like you're on a planet on Mars. Tons of new cards, quests, items, alien attack cards, wounds, just everything. More and more and more and more and more. There's going to be pretty similar, like standalone stuff. So it's gonna have like the card holders and the doors, etc., etc., etc. They have a billion stretch goals that have all been unlocked. New additional characters. They have models for the broken doors. Like that's when like Zach and I were playing. Like you break a door, there's 3D models for it. But like, how do you say that the door is broken? You just sort of lay it on its side. But then, like, if the door is open, it's not there at all. If the door's closed, you put it in there. But it also filled up the hallway when you laid it down, so there's actually, like, broken door things now. Mars-specific stuff, additional poses, injure tokens, because when you have these little cubes, and so the aliens take as much wounds as they can until you draw a card that's be like, oh, now they're dead. So if you had a certain amount of wounds on there, the amount of wounds they could take to die is kind of random. So now there's like little wound tokens that you can put underneath the bases that have little counters on them. Super gross fungus aliens. More characters. More. There's like a new spore mechanic. And then you can get all of the old stuff with the Void Seekers, Aftermath, which is like you play a game of Nemesis and then you play the sequel to Nemesis and have like a Nemesis alien to your aliens equivalent. Just add an S. Yeah, there's just a lot in here. You can get everything.
Yeah, there is.
If you want this game, you can get everything, and the game's pretty good. So it's not the worst thing I've seen on Kickstarter in a long time, because it's a game I've actually played and played multiple times and have enjoyed it. The only thing I haven't really played is the Aftermath, and of course the new content.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's a lot of fucking game here. I think the playmats are new. I think. So you can get like some neoprene playmats for the various. One playmat is double-sided, which is something I haven't really seen for like neoprene playmats off the top of my head.
Yeah, I've seen it here and there.
Yeah. And all the old expansions. The King's expansion does not look, or it is new or something Paul did not have. And you know what? I think there was some stuff he didn't have, like the space cats, which are just like random alien cats.
Seems like they're not even included in that like super high tier because it's the gameplay all in, and those are not gameplay related at all.
So I'm sure Paul will buy all of this because he doesn't have to get it on the all in. But Nemesis was fun. It's that kind of semi-co-op level Ameritrash type game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very thematic. Definitely a very good thematic game. I just wish it wasn't so fucking expensive.
Yeah, I don't think I can justify $300 for this game.
Yeah. Especially when you know someone that owns it.
Yeah. And it's not going to deliver until like fucking September of 2021.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
I mean, we know two people with Nemesis. I'm sure at least one of them is getting this. So
Yeah.
Friends in high places. Am I right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's Kickstarter.
Yep. That's all of it. That wraps up news and Kickstarters, which brings us over to the listener feedback section of the show. And turns out if you take 2 weeks off of podcasting, you get some listener feedback.
2 weeks.
So maybe we need to do that more often.
Emails.
Yeah. So, Jeff, why don't you take away with the emails?
Emails at milehighgameguys.com if you would like to send us an email, like these wonderful people did. First up, it's Ofer with some timely information from late May. Titled Timely Information.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Madrian, you should really build a better deck in Slay the Spire before you take on an elite. Yours truly, Ofer.
He's got you there.
Yeah. Slay the Spire has been a popular thing lately.
Yeah.
And it just got released on iOS too.
Yes.
Which is bullshit. I want it to be on Android.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be there.
Play it on my
it
phone.
usually comes out on Android first, most apps, I feel.
I know. Yeah. It's real good. I don't know. I was venting about getting hosed at some point. And so
I'm assuming we responded with the standard, well, you should just be better at the game.
I'm sure there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that game, like, you might just get really unlucky with what card options you get at the end of battles and not get to build a good deck. And that's unfortunate. But that's a roguelike for you.
Yes, it is. A roguelike deck building game. That's gonna happen.
Yup.
That'll happen.
I have now beaten. Well, so I beat I got to the heart with all 3 of the first characters, and now I have to beat it.
Good luck with that. That is tough.
Yeah. I haven't played in a little while. I needed a break.
Yep.
So, yeah. Next email.
This one comes from Jeremy. Best board game rating system. Jeremy here from Canada. I wanted to introduce how some of my local game group ranks their games. We call it the Legan scale, named after the co-inventors Keegan and Liam. The scale goes from -2 to 2. -2. I never want to play this game again. -1. I am greatly disinclined, but I will if that's the only option. 0. Meh. Sure, I'll play this game. 1. I like it. I will often recommend it. 2. I will always recommend this game. I love it. There are no half ratings. Technically, this game greatly mirrors the BGG ratings as BGG describes them, but as no one rates games properly on BGG, this more simplistic rating system encourages proper assessment. I propose MHGG adopt this as the official board game rating system of the Mile High Game Guys. I believe that would be an OBGRSMHGG? TM,
sure.
Trademarked. P.S. I always thought I was #Team Jeff, but due to our shared love of Lisboa and Run the Jewels, as well as shared hatred of the police, fuck the police, I think I'm actually Team Adrian. I think it's time to rethink the decisions I've made that has brought me to this place. You should, absolutely. You don't want to be you don't always want to be on Team Adrian.
No. It is, Team Adrian, I mean, they have some good opinions.
Yeah.
But it's you're making a statement by being there that you can't unsay it, is all I'm saying.
Do you want to run the Pope around the track a couple more times?
I mean, clearly he does.
Absolutely.
He loves Lisboa.
It's the fucking no.
I don't know why this rating system starts at -2. Started at 1.
I'm
0
guessing
to 5.
maybe it's something of if all 3 of us are playing a game, it was give our ratings of it, and if it doesn't meet a certain criteria, if it doesn't become a positive number or something, then it's not a game to play or something like that.
Yeah. I could see that. If you were trying to decide between the 3 of us what game we wanted to play and we rated them, me rating a game a -2 and you guys each rating it a 1 would hit it at a 0, which maybe we don't play it. But if I only rated it a -1 and you guys both rated it a 1, it'd be positive and sure, let's play it. I could see it from that perspective if you were using this scale to actually choose games.
If you had
but if you're just using it to rate
inputs
games, I'm
on
what the fuck?
this system.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I really liked. I saw somebody had proposed at one point a modified BGG scale that was you would use a decimal system a little bit to where it'd be 1. So the whole digit, the 1 to 10, would be how good you think the game is, and then the decimal side of it, which would also be a 0 to 9, would be how much you want to play it. So you could
how
have
much
something
you like the game versus how good you think of a game it is. Yeah,
exactly. So you could rate something that you thought was a really good game, but you never want to play again would be a 9.0. The 9 represents that you think it's a really good game, but the 0 represents you wouldn't want to play it again. Whereas a 9.9 is I think this is a great game and I'd love to play it again.
I mean, I like that, but that's because I've always felt that the quality of the game and my enjoyment of them are rare. They're not oftentimes in sync. So
yeah. Well, and especially nowadays where you have things that are like Pandemic Legacy, where really there's no reason to ever play that much more than once. It feels weird to rate it 2. I will always recommend this game. I love it. like, no, I won't. Like,
I mean, I would always recommend it to people who haven't played it.
that's fair. I mean, that's fair. But yeah, so I don't know. It's an alright score. I mean, it's a simplified score system, which is nice. Because I do think a 10-point scale is almost too much, especially when so many people do like half ones, like a 7.5, and it's like, why? It's a 10-point scale. You got plenty of granularity in there already.
It's because 7 feels too low and 8 feels too high. Come on, man.
Oh my god.
I'm always a fan of 5-point scales.
Yeah.
5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, etc.
Yep.
2 stars and a boat.
So, but that's it for listener feedback.
And emails.
We are
at milehighgameguys.com.
Yep. So emails are done, and that's it for listener feedback. There's no other listener feedback this week. If you would like to get a hold of us, there are multiple ways for you to do so. You can send us emails.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can also find us over on Twitter, where I tweet under at MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
I am Jeff_MHGG.
We have our Instagram account at MHGameGuys. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/MHGameGuys. And we have our website, milehighgameguys.com, where there are links to all the news and Kickstarter things and other bits and pieces of things we talk about in our shows. So, like, for this week's episode, when it hits the website, we'll have links to those charities we mentioned that we're going to be donating our Patron money to. So, all kinds of things like that. There's also links on all of our episode posts on the website to things like our BGG Guild, guild number 2731, as well as our Slack channel, where we randomly bullshit about games and game-related things and movies and movie-related things, and sometimes politics and sometimes sports and sometimes other things. But they're all segregated nicely. Yeah, they're all put into their nice little channels where if you don't give a shit about sports, just don't go to the sports channel. It's nice and simple to curate your experience in the Mile High Game Guy Slack. And then at some point, we are getting close to returning to Twitch, twitch.tv/MHGameGuys. Colorado's COVID numbers have been looking pretty reasonable, and we are starting to have discussions about when we would feel comfortable everybody coming and getting back nice and close in the studio and playing some games live on stream. So
now we just have to figure out work schedules, because as of right now, literally no time works. So.
Yeah. So it will probably be some kind of a thing where it might not always be all three of us on streams until COVID is over enough that Jeff can go back to a normal work schedule. Have they given you any indication, Jeff, of how long they're gonna have you guys on the weird split shifts?
Nope.
Great.
Yep.
So, but yeah, we're still probably a couple weeks away from doing that. But we're starting to talk about it, and we'll keep you guys all posted on that. So, yeah. We would also like to take some time to thank our newest patron over on Patreon, Matt McDonald. Our newest patron over on Patreon, Matt M, pledged $1 back right at the end of May, right before we took a 2-week break. So, you can blame him. He gave us $1, and it was just so discouraging. We took 2 weeks off. Jeff, do you have a rip and tear ready for our new patron?
So, Matt has been in Slack for like 2 years.
Yep.
And has said we don't pay the $120,000 a month or whatever it'd be to
close to that,
save every real precious chat message that everyone sends. But Matt has been real under the radar this whole time. So he's a very quiet Matt.
I want to say it's like it's either 20 or 40,000 messages that it automatically saves.
And he's not a single one of those. So quiet Matt has not given me much information, because I can only assume he's hoarding onto his McDonald's fortune that he has.
He did
But
send
thank
us a
you.
lovely email like a year ago.
Yes. For all of his
Almost
purchasing
exactly a
habits
year ago.
that I'm sure he bought with his McDonald's fortune. So thank you for giving us $1 whole, Matt, due to your fast food fortune.
Indeed. Yeah. So, and thanks to all of our other patrons over on Patreon who have continued to support us all this time. We super appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
We also would like to take some time to thank our awesome sponsors, Gray Fox Games, who have also continued to sponsor us through all of COVID slowdowns and streaming halts and everything. They've stuck with us, and we really appreciate that. Be sure to.
Luckily, only on a per episode basis for them.
Correct.
At least. So.
Yes. Their website, grayfoxgames.com, has a whole bunch of their different games that you can get pre-orders and even some Kickstarter editions of some of them. They still have a couple copies floating around. Things like Zoned Out, Reavers of Midgard. You can go and get some of those over on their website. Like I said, grayfoxgames.com. Jeff, do you have a prepared statement?
Well, there is also their next game coming soon, Arcana Rising. That there's not a whole lot of details yet, but it's magicians. It's a engine builder. It looks interesting. That's the next thing on the Gray Fox horizon. Also, they got their Tsukiyumi models in. I was looking at those. Those look pretty all right so far. I look forward to seeing what the Tsukiyumi Full Moon Down will be turning into here soon. They got the punch boards, the blank punch boards and stuff in for their samples and stuff. So that's moving along.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up the episode.
No, not but
Jeff, do you have a prepared statement for us?
Oh, thank you, Zach.
You're
I
welcome.
asked that.
Gray Fox Games, quality games, cleverly crafted. Also, it's not about changing the world. It's about doing our best to leave the world the way it is. It's about respecting the will of others and believing in your own.
Indeed.
Indeed.
And now that wraps up the show. Thanks everybody for listening. And we'll hopefully be back in a week. As always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Cobra Fang Jeff.
Bye.
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 Punchboard Media, where we all
bring something
to the table.
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.